the quorum be dispensed with.
Without objection.
Now, Mr. President, as spring begins, daily new cases of COVID-19 have dramatically decreased since the height of Omicron. Hospitalizations, thank God, are steadily declining. Across the country, Americans are able to remove their masks as the spread of disease seems to be lessening. Crucially, schools are open, and we need to do everything we can in our power to make sure they stay open. All of these signs point in a positive direction. The country is turning the corner on the COVID pandemic. We are in a new moment of the fight. But we are also at a crossroads. Either we act now to secure the progress we have made, or we risk backsliding if another contagious variant emerges in the fall and winter. Just as we cannot allow COVID to rule our lives, neither can we fall into a false sense of complacency. That's why the White House has requested that Congress include $22.5 billion in additional COVID relief funding in the upcoming spending bill. And Congress should follow through with this request over the coming days. If not, we risk sliding back if another variant occurs. This morning on CNBC, former FDA Commissioner Scott Gottlieb reminded viewers of a key aspect of this disease. To paraphrase him loosely, cases can drop in the spring and summer, but the risk still exists for another wave to surge in the fall or winter. He's right. We all know this from sad experience. We also know what we must do to be ready. We know a lot more now what to do to be ready than we knew a year ago. If we want to keep our schools open, if we want to keep life as close to normal as possible, if we want to be ready for the possibilities of future variants, Congress must provide the resources needed before a new variant arrives. That's the surest way to minimize cases, hospitalizations, and deaths in the future. Let me repeat, to keep schools open, to keep life as normal as it can be, we need additional COVID investments now, not after a possible new variant arrives. Remember, by now, all the public health funding provided under the American Rescue Plan has run out. If Congress waits until the new variant arises to pass new funding, it'll be too late. And we're happy to make clear with our Republican colleagues about how this money is dedicated. The White House has already provided an explanation about how COVID money has been spent over time. Some Republicans may think it should have been spent differently, but the point is that it has been spent. We can't pull those dollars back, and we need to provide new funding for possible variants. Where has the COVID money been spent thus far? It's gone to vaccinate 215 million Americans. It's been used to keep schools open, to expand treatments, and to provide 1.2 billion vaccines to other countries. And last night, Acting OMB Director Shalanda Young sent Congress a 12-page letter detailing what the new funding would do. More vaccines for children, bolstering our testing supply chain, therapeutics, and more. If there's one thing both parties should be able to agree on, it's that we should not shortchange the American people on vaccines, on testing, or on therapeutic medicines that greatly reduce the severity of the illness if you're able to take them, if we have the supply. So again, Congress must include new funding for COVID relief to assure our schools and our communities face minimal disruption in case another variant comes. And we should do it ASAP. The most logical place immediately to do it is in the upcoming omnibus bill. Now, on another matter, on costs to the American people. In the coming months and beyond, Senate Democrats will maintain a focus on one of the most vexing issues facing American families, lowering costs while building on the wage and job growth we've seen over the past year. The American economy is booming compared to a year ago. The number of new jobs added to the economy is staggering. We've added more than 6 million new jobs in a single year, including the most new manufacturing jobs in decades. But at the same time, we must fiercely confront the wave of rising costs resulting from COVID's worldwide disruptions. This is the biggest economic challenge that our country must focus on right now. Later today, at our DPCC lunch at the request of Chair Stabenow, FTC Commissioner Lina Khan will join us to shine a light on the troubling pattern of corporate price hikes in the areas of oil and gas, prescription drugs, and other goods. The dimension of inflation cannot be ignored. Americans are being asked to pay more at the grocery store, at the pump, and for basic goods, even as they watch incredulously as some of the nation's biggest corporations post their most massive profits. In many instances, these profits resoundingly exceed pre-pandemic figures. Last fall, Bloomberg noted that U.S. corporations outside of the financial industry reported the biggest margins since 1950. Since 1950, 71 and a half years ago. It appears corporate profits are far outpacing inflation, and they are spending much of the profits on things like corporate buybacks, which are hitting record levels. So Americans are being asked to pay more, but many mega corporations are making a killing. That is a twisted thing to see as we recover from COVID. Democrats are working right now on a number of proposals and ideas that would ease the pressure of that Americans are feeling from rising costs. We must lower the cost of insulin to $35 a month. We must make all prescription drugs cheaper. We need to help make groceries more affordable. We need to look at fixing ocean shipping bottlenecks. I will also add that one of the best things we can do to fight inflation is to confirm President Biden's nominees to the Federal Reserve. I urge in the strongest terms possible for Republicans to drop their holds on these members. The Federal Reserve is so crucial for our economy right now, and to intentionally delay their confirmation is irresponsible. Most importantly, we must boost manufacturing, American manufacturing, and decrease our reliance on overseas producers. The war provoked by Putin is an illustration as to why this example is important. President Biden's State of the Union made clear that the United States remains strong and ready to face the immense challenges of our time. But to maintain that edge, we must focus like a laser on addressing costs. That's what Democrats will keep doing. And another thing we're doing today, that's happening today, is a hearing in the Commerce Committee on shipping costs and a bipartisan bill by Senators Klobuchar and Thune that will help reduce those costs. Shipping costs affect every American. Any good that comes from overseas has to be shipped here. On the post office, Democrats have been working all week with Republicans to push the biggest postal reform bill in years over the finish line. And today we're close. Today we continue negotiations with the other side on their proposed list of amendments to the bill. As we continue to work on the deal, I filed cloture last night on the postal bill in order to keep the momentum going. At the end of the day, the vast majority of Democrats and Republicans want to see this bill sent to the President's desk quickly. So I hope we can arrive at an agreement to finish before the weekend. I want to thank my colleagues on both sides of the aisle for their continued work. Chairman Peters, Ranking Member Portman. This postal reform bill has been a long time coming, and when passed, it will ensure that tens of millions of Americans who rely on the post office every single day for medicine, Social Security checks, and other goods can make sure that the post office remains in good hands and is strengthened. And finally, I want to close by noting this afternoon President Biden will sign into law bipartisan legislation ending forced arbitration for sexual assault and sexual harassment. All of us have heard the searing testimonies, of those who have faced harassment or abuse at work, only to discover their jobs offered precious little in accountability. Countless careers have been derailed or undone. Worse still, countless lives have been forever damaged. And for decades, workplace practices like mandatory arbitration have perpetuated cultures of abuse and unaccountability. We can't ignore a basic reality of these clauses. They deprive victims of sexual harassment and assault of their basic rights by mandating that they seek remedy only behind closed doors of private arbitration with no other alternative. With the President's signature today, that will come to an end. I want to thank Senator Gillibrand for leading the fight for years, and I'm glad I was able to work with Senators Graham and Ernst to push this bill over the finish line. By the end of today, we will be able to say the Senate acted, the House acted, the President acted, and now forced arbitration reform is law. I yield the floor. The absence of a quorum.